The Cato Institute put out an article on September 11th titled "Politically Motivated Violence is Rare in the United States." This article was in response to Trump when he came out and talked about how there had to be a crackdown on the radical left. And this article has gone viral for two separate reasons. The first one being that people who are left-leaning or leftists are taking the statistics or numbers from this article and they're spreading it around as if it is an official study that is diving into all the numbers and all the cases of political violence and extremism in America. And these people are thinking, oh my gosh, these are the actual numbers. And so they're posting it as if it's gospel. And then you have the second reason for why this article is going viral, and that's for people on the right or even moderates who are kind of digging a little bit past the surface of this article, looking at the actual cases, the actual numbers, and they're seeing just how botched these numbers really are. And we're going to talk about how they're botched and how people posting this image right here where it says the right is responsible for the majority of political violence in the United States when it's really just numbers that are manipulated. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about that. Now, like always with these videos, man, this is going to be a great video today. So if you enjoy it, if you learned anything new, if you support any of the things I'm saying, go ahead, like the video, share it, comment, let me know your thoughts on everything, and subscribe, obviously, and follow me on Rumble. Now let's go ahead and let's get into it. So the Cato Institute releases a study/article, and in this study, it talks about how there are 6 separate categories of politically motivated terrorism or violence in the United States. And those categories are foreign nationalism, Islamism, left-wing, right-wing, separatism, and then has another category as unknown or other. So these are the 6 categories. And it's funny because the image that's going viral that you see all these people posting, it shows that right-wingers are responsible for the majority of violence. 63% of all violence, in fact. They say that it accounts for 391 deaths compared to left wing, which is only 10%, which is 65 deaths, and Islamism, which is only 141 deaths, so 23%. And then the other categories are very low. They're either at 1% or under, so nobody's really even paying attention to those, to be honest. But let's talk about this. Let's actually see what these numbers really are. Now, the numbers that you see all the time with this image are going to say excludes 9/11. Why is that being excluded? Because according to them, 9/11 is just a massive outlier as a single data point, and none of the rest really matters. So it's being said, oh, we excluded it in this part of the study because on their website, if you go to the article, the first numbers that it shows, which is table 1, includes the deaths of 9/11. And if you include the deaths of 9/11, it brings Islamism to being responsible for 87% of deaths that are politically motivated. That's quite a very big event. You know, it's over 2,000, almost 3,000 deaths. It brings up the number for Islamism to 3,120, which is a big number increase. So they removed it in the second table of contents for the numbers, and this is the one that's going viral. And it even says excluding 9/11 because they have to, at least tell you that they're doing this. But a lot of people who are making excuses for this are just saying, oh, it's a massive outlier. But yet they left in the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing, which is responsible for 168 deaths. And this is classified as right-wing. And it's crazy because this event actually happened before 9/11. This happened in 1995. So they're saying 9/11 and all the deaths from that are just a massive outlier, but yet they're leaving in the Oklahoma City bombing, which has 168 deaths, and they don't consider that to be a massive outlier. Even though if you did exclude all the deaths from 9/11 and if you got rid of the Oklahoma City bombing deaths, it would actually adjust the percentage of deaths from right-wing terrorism to 49.3%. But let's take it a step further and let's break down at least some of the events that are classified as right-wing violence. So first of all, one of the things the study takes into account for right-wing violence is basically any school shooting. Any school shooting, regardless of race, background, whether it's mental health issues or anything like that, is classified as right-wing. For instance, Henderson Solomon, which is the kid who shot up his school this year in January, they classified this as right-wing violence because he was an incel. So anybody who's an incel, anybody who shoots up a school, they classify as right-wing violence. It doesn't matter if the person is left-leaning or if they're gay or bisexual or trans or whatever, it will be classified as right-wing just because it's a mass shooting in a school. But also, the study goes even further with not including any deaths related to Antifa or the BLM riots. Even though during the BLM riots in 2020, it's estimated by a lot of different publications that around 25 people died. So not only did they not count most of those numbers for left-wing extremism, but they go as far as to take a shooting that occurred during BLM with two men doing a drive-by shooting of federal officers during the BLM riots, and they took that and counted it as far-right terrorism. So not only is this study excluding massive outliers from other groups, not counting anything Antifa, communist related since 1975, no events, no deaths related to anybody like that, but they're also taking anybody who was considered an incel, classifying that as right-wing. They're taking certain events during the BLM riots and excluding pretty much all the deaths from that, except for one shooting that was a drive-by shooting on federal officers and classifying that as right-wing. And there's even some events that were shootings that took place outside of schools that were classified as right-wing just because nobody could figure out the real motive of the shooter. Even like the ADL, which I don't trust the ADL at all, but even they have given reports on some of these events and said, yeah, we don't actually know what the real motive is. We can't say that it was right-wing. But this study takes those regardless and counts them as right-wing. So of course, if you exclude the biggest outlier in American history, and then you include other bigger outliers, and then you don't count certain types of violence and certain types of deaths, and then you count certain people who are obviously left-leaning, and you take those and you count them as right-leaning, obviously, whatever study or statistic you do is going to come out and say that right-wingers are more violent and cause more death, obviously, because it's a very biased, botched study. And all of these people are taking this image, they're taking this study as gospel. They're spreading it around as if it is the most bulletproof research on the subject matter and we can't have any debate or any discussion. But all of these people are not looking past the surface level. They're just taking it as gospel and they're passing it around. Now we know why this is a thing. It's in response to what happened to Charlie Kirk. Why is this going viral though? Why is so many people on the left posting this? And I have certain friends that I follow still that are left-leaning. They are socialists. They are, I would say, radical leftists, and I still follow them for a few reasons, mainly because I do like them as people. I've known them for a long time. They're good people. They're just stupid when it comes to their politics, but also I follow them because it gives me a view. It gives me a window to look into what does the average everyday liberal, what does the average everyday socialist, communist, whatever you want to say, Antifa person, anti-ICE, whatever you want to say, what does the average person in America that thinks like this believe? Because you best believe, dude, they are not shy about their politics. They be posting about that shit all day, every day, and you can tell nobody gives a shit. I even know one guy who does it to try and get laid, but it's like very pathetic, dude. It's like I'm not even going to get into all that, but I'm just saying it gives me a window to look through and see what these people think. And almost all of them posted this statistic. They were posting it like it's gospel. And why? Why? Because this type of study, which is obviously misleading 100%, but the reason why it's going viral for them is because it's being used as a way to make them feel vindicated, to make them feel like they're still the victims. Despite all the things that have happened, despite all the reaction that has come out with everything related to Charlie Kirk and all these people celebrating it, and everybody obviously knowing like, hey, you guys are like insane for doing that. That's crazy. They need something to make them feel like, see, we're not the bad guys. We're the good guys. We're the rebellion in Star Wars. You're the Empire. Like they need to be victims. They need to be seen as like, we're the good guys, see, because they kill more people. You see? They kill more people than we do. And that's why they're posting it around. That's why it's going viral. They need it because they need to feel good. All this is just being used as a way to validate their violent rhetoric. That is it. It is just being used as a way to comfort their delusions in the fact that they're the ones being persecuted. They're the ones who are the good guys. They're the ones that need to fight tooth and nail because we're really the ones being oppressed. We're really the ones that are being hurt. Look at all these horrible right-wingers with their guns. They're evil. That's all this study is. That's all this article is. It's just made to divide people, mislead people, and unfortunately, a lot of people are not autistic enough to just look through the cracks. They're not autistic enough to go below the surface and look at the actual numbers and see how the study was conducted. And even those socialist friends that I said I had, I'm going to be honest, it's like, yeah, they're idiots. Yeah, they're really stupid, dude. Like they take anything they can get and they post it like it is the word of God. You would be surprised, bro. Anything they can get, they take it and they run with it. It is actually kind of crazy how many people I've seen do that I actually personally know. But also at the same time, it's like some of those dudes, bro, they don't have any money. They work 3 jobs. Like they don't have time. They're not autistic enough to investigate these things and dive into these things. However, I am. So I'm going to look at this shit. But not everybody can do that. And I understand that. I get it. But what you're going to see is stuff like this. You're going to see a lot more stuff like this from the Cato Institute, from these publications. You're going to see more articles. You're going to see more, elitists coming out and defending leftism and defending these things. They're going to come out with botched studies. They're going to come out with botched numbers on whatever. And they're going to use it as a way to validate themselves and to make them feel like they're the good guys. Because that's what they want. They want to be on the right side of history so bad. And that's why they'll take something that is a lie, that is bullshit, and they'll just say it. Because what happens when you say a lie over and over? You start to believe it. You start to believe in the delusions. You start to believe in the non-reality because your perception is reality. And if you believe the lies that you're saying, that becomes your truth. And whatever your truth is all that matters. And the good guys are decided by those who win most of the time. So maybe they see this as just another way for them to win. And when they do, they can write history and vindicate themselves as the good guys. Make them feel like they were the ones that were on the right side. And that's all that matters to these people. That's all that matters. So anytime they get any type of slop or bullshit, they're going to cling on to that for dear life. And they're not going to have a debate with you on it. At least not most of them. They're not going to talk to you about it. Like all those socialist friends I talked about, I'm not messaging them, telling them, hey, yo, these are botched. I'm not doing that because what's going to happen when I do that is they're not going to listen. It's not going to make me feel better for arguing with a brick wall. It's not going to make them understand that what they're posting is literally misinformation. It's not going to do anything other than waste my time. And that's kind of like, unfortunately, the point we've gotten to is that even with people on a personal level, you can't even debate with them because they're not going to listen. It is literally a waste of breath. And you might be saying, well, why are you doing a video on this then if it's a waste of breath? Because it's not a waste of breath for us. We need to actually be vigilant. We need to be watchmen of this stuff. We need to pay attention when these things happen, lest we start taking this stuff and we start believing the numbers. We start believing the botched studies. And then that's going to make us doubt our own beliefs. So it's important to research things, even things you believe, to figure out if they're true or not, because the truth is really all that matters. And in the case of this study, it's bullshit. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think of these studies? What do you think of these people taking these things? Why do you think they do that? Why do you think that is? Why do you think these people take these studies, these numbers, and they push them around? Is it for the reasons I said? If not, let me know below how it's different. Let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know if the numbers are correct and I'm just a bigot and just racist. Tell me below, dude. I invite all criticism. I invite all comments. I invite everything. So let me know below what you thought of the video, if you did learn something, and if you did enjoy this video. As always, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Rumble, like the video, share it with a friend, and follow me here if you're an American First patriot, if you're a Christian. So thank you for watching, and as always, guys, Jesus Christ is King of Kings, Lord of Lords, America First, baby, and I'll see you all later.